Hello and welcome to our Year with the Ears, our daily vlog where we relive our year living in the Walt Disney World Resorts in 2019. Today is day 95.
We are kicking off the Star Wars Rival Run race weekend today with the 5K, bright and early, getting up at 3 a.m. So much fun. That's the best part of these races, right? I almost feel like you should just stay up all night at that point because 3 a.m. is really, really early. But the first bus for the 5K leaves from our resort at 3:30, and we wanted to make sure we're down there to get on it. They only have 30 minutes to get on a bus there, 3:30 to 4 before the last bus leaves. So we're going to try and get down there and be on the first one. Thankfully, we were on the first bus out of there. Tons of people came in right behind us, but we got out of there quickly. Headed over to Epcot, where they were staging everyone in the parking lot there and unloaded from the buses, and then proceeded to walk a very long distance all the way across the Epcot parking area, all the way to the staging area where we all kind of were waiting and getting ready. They had a lot of porta potties over there. They had a concert going on with music up on the stage. That was a lot of fun. They had some really, really cool character meet and greets over there.
Yes, they did.
I saw Jabba the Hutt, and that one was really cool. Of course, he wasn't, moving. He was just a big stationary plastic model that you could stand in front of. Because I don't think I'd want to see Jabba the Hutt moving around as a character. That would be a little disturbing.
It'd be hilarious, though, if they didn't have him moving, and then, suddenly he moved when people walked up and took pictures. I would stand in line for that.
Like those living statues that they do that just freeze and then move whenever you're not looking. And, that would...
Disney, this is an idea for you.
There you go. Next
throw that out there.
Run Disney event that's Star Wars.
They also had Darth Vader. He had quite a line. And they had K2SO, who isn't as well known if you're not as much of a Star Wars fan. So he didn't have as long of a line as some of the others. So we went and took a picture with him because no one was really over there. And of course, they had Robert's favorite, Boba Fett. Thankfully, he got a picture yesterday because all these lines at the beginning of the morning are always so long.
Oh, they're ridiculous.
And if you want a picture with your running outfit with the characters, I understand, but you just have to know you're going to wait in a long line. So you have to be prepared for that. We didn't want to wait in these lines because they are very long, and we want to check everything out. This is our very first Star Wars half marathon weekend. We did the Princess, but we haven't been here for Star Wars. And of course, the ever always there Joffrey's coffee truck was there and had just as long of a line as the characters did.
That was probably the longest line of anything there.
Those porta potties, they always have long lines too.
That's very true. That's very true. But the Joffrey's truck was definitely one of the most popular things there. Everyone getting food and coffee. And I get it, for the 5K, you could probably do a 5K after filling up on coffee and stuff. But when I'm getting ready to do the 10K or the half marathon, the thought of eating a donut and drinking coffee before that doesn't sound good to me. But apparently a lot of people do it, so it must work for some people. I don't know.
Now, we did take a picture together because this is a big deal for us. We're so excited. And there was a PhotoPass photographer out there that had a frame. So we took a picture with that and honestly just spent the time just walking around. There were so many people. They were everywhere. And looking back is just amazing to see, but that's part of the excitement. All the outfits, costumes, everything you get to see. Everyone's so pumped up, and nobody really seems like they know where they're supposed to go. You all just kind of wander and follow the crowd to get to wherever you're going. But we finally made it into the corral. We could hear them up on the stage talking. Everyone's so excited. Again, all these costumes around us, and we're pumped. It's the 5K. I'm ready to do this. I'm awake. And it's not very long. I'm thrilled about that part because the 5K is the shortest part of this. I already did a half marathon. I'm good. So I feel like the 5K, I can do this, and then I'm going back and taking a nap.
That's a good plan. 3 miles, you can get through in, good 45 minutes easily. And it'll be fine. As it got closer to the start time of 5:30, we noticed it was a little bit odd because the stage got kind of quiet. They had music, they had a DJ out, but they weren't doing the typical talking and banter and pumping up the crowd, and a lot of things just seemed off. We didn't know what was going on really, and we started hearing chattering and kind of murmuring amongst the crowd of people talking about, looks like a storm might be coming in, it looks like maybe rain, I don't know what's going on, we're gonna get wet.
But we didn't hear anything official.
But it was just kind of, the radar was looking kind of green, and maybe some thunderstorms.
5:30 came and went, and we all just stood there, thousands of people standing in this corral, and we're like, does anyone know what's going on? Why are we still standing here? Disney is never late. They are never late. So you know something's up when that start time comes and goes. And so we're waiting and waiting. And the next thing we know, someone comes on the stage and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, please follow the cast members. There's a storm coming and we need you all in shelter now."
That's amazing. There's like 15,000 people out here or something. So they were like, oh, where are we going to go
Stampede in the Pride Land.
Right. And so they said, okay, if you have a car, go to your car. That's fine. If you came on a bus, we have all the buses lined up that we have. Go sit on a bus. That's fine too. But there's not enough cars and buses to hold everyone. And so they said, if you're over in this area, which we were kind of at the back, actually closer to the park, they said, if you're there, you can actually go into the park and they'll put you in like some shelter in the park. And I'm not going to sit on a bus when I can go into Epcot that's closed in the 5:30 in the morning and have my like chance to walk around and see Epcot really totally empty, you know?
At this point, it still has not started raining. It's not even sprinkling, but it got a lot cooler. And usually what that means when it's in Florida and you're like, oh, it feels really nice out here. If you hear someone say those words, that means it's going to rain because that means the weather dropped. It feels really good for a set amount of time and then it's going to rain on you. That's just how it works. And it was getting cooler. I was like, okay, it was already cool. It's early in the morning, but it's very much cooler now. They were funneling us all into interventions. We were heading that way. And we ended up right at the end where they said, hey, it's full. We need everyone to start going to Electric Umbrella. We were actually one of the first ones to get in there, which meant we got a table and chairs, which was really nice because we had somewhere to sit. And we all thought we'd be in here for a little while.
Yeah, we're like maybe 15 minutes till the storm comes and blows over. It looks like it's moving pretty quickly on the radar. But we were still happy to have a chair because we've been standing in the corral for the last, hour and a half. We get our seats, we sit there, and the crowd starts kind of filling the restaurant. And all of a sudden, the restaurant that was totally empty is now completely jam-packed with people, wall-to-wall, people sitting at the chairs, sitting in the floor in between the tables, sitting over by the registers, leaning up against the rails, everywhere, just away from the doors because they tried to herd us away from the doors. It was kind of crazy, but it was also really cool because we're like looking out the window there at Epcot and it's completely empty and all lit up at night, except, no one's there because they're closed. Then the wind really picked up and the rain came, and it was one of those complete just downpouring torrential rains, and there was thunder and there was lightning and it was just flooding and soaking everything. It just completely washed everything out, and
it was a true storm.
We realized this is why they didn't want to start the race, because we would have not even been going through the corrals probably whenever this started, and not something you want to mess with lightning in the area, And that
was their biggest concern, was the lightning. Obviously, they don't want us out there, who knows where on the trail, getting just drenched and downpoured on. But the lightning was truly the safety concern that they were worried about, which is why we were all in the shelter. And we ended up being there for over an hour as this storm just kept coming. And they had to make sure there was no lightning in the area before we could all leave.
Just after 7 o'clock, they came in and said, okay, we are finally cleared to go, but please don't all go at once. We don't need to stampede. Do not run. Walk back to the start. And normally the way the Run Disney events work is you have corrals. And we were excited because we actually got a corral for this one, which was really cool. And the corrals get released one at a time. So if you're in A, you're going to go first. And there's usually going to be several waves in each corral. So they let a certain number of people go. They get a little bit of distance out there on the track. And then let the next wave go until they're done with corral A. Then they move on to B and C, etc. Well, this time they said, look, just go out there. The start line is there. Take off. Go. Don't worry about corrals. Don't worry about anything. Just go. We can't try to stage everyone again. Get out there and start going, but do not run. Please do not run. If you are running, be very, very careful. There's a lot of standing water. Everything is completely wet, and it's still raining. It's not downpouring like it was. You can walk and run if you wanted to, but it's definitely raining enough to get everyone completely wet. So they said if you must run, you can, but please, we'd prefer everyone just walk this one. It's just a 5K. We're not timing anyone anyway. And if you don't want to go out and get totally soaked, you can actually just bypass it, go straight over to the finish line around the parking lot there and get your medal and go home. That's totally fine too. Which, they always allow you to get the medals even if you don't finish, except for the challenge medals. So I guess that was not any different, except they just kind of let you shortcut to the very end and just say, I'm done, I want to go back. And I didn't blame anyone who did that. It was kind of a miserable start to the race, but we wanted to run it. We're doing this one. It's the only one we're doing together, so we decided to take off and try and do this, not a race, this time, even though we're going to be totally wet. And by the time we even got to the start line, we were already drenched. It didn't matter. Like, we were already soaked. Why would we want to go back now? We may as well just do the whole thing.
I think the toughest part of all this was how long we had to wait, because we would have been done with the 5K, been back at our resort at this point, and we're just now starting the 5K. We were exhausted and starving. We weren't planning to be out this long, but we were determined to finish it. And I was so grateful that they still had PhotoPass photographers out.
Yeah.
They're not great pictures, but they're pictures. And since we took the time to go out and actually do the race, I'm really glad that we have pictures of the race. And we had so much fun. We decided we're going to get wet anyway. Not going to look great in these pictures. Not that you look great running anyway. But we were drenched walking through, and we just decided to have fun. We were jumping in puddles. We had a wonderful time. We were so cold. I was so cold at the end of this thing because I was completely drenched. But I'm really glad we finished it. And we had a great time. And you could tell everyone was just, if you're here, you might as well have a good time. You've committed to this. And I felt so bad for everyone that put so much work into the costumes that they worked on.
Yes.
And now they're just completely drenched. Their pictures are not what they want it to be. I felt so bad.
And so many people put all this effort into the 5K, especially because, number one, it's the most accessible race. It's only 3 miles. A lot more people can do a 5K. But number two, you only have to go 3 miles and it's not timed. So if you're going to do this crazy, extravagant costume that you don't really want to run for 13.1 miles, that's fine. You can do it for the 5K and it's a lot easier. And so there were some really cool costumes that did not look super cool at this point because
they were not waterproof.
Soggy messes. Yeah, it was not good.
We made sure to take pictures through each mile marker, and there aren't that many because it is a 5K, but we took pictures throughout because that's what we did for the half marathon, and Robert is committed to doing this for the next couple as well. So we have all these mile marker pictures. We didn't get to see a lot of characters because it is raining, unfortunately, but we did get to see a few.
They didn't have any official character meet and greets out there. They did have a couple props that they had set up and you could see where the meet and greet was going to be, but yeah, no characters out because of all the rain. However, the 501st showed up, and rain or shine, they're going to show up and volunteer. These are incredible people. If you've never heard of them, you can look them up. They do all kinds of charity events and stuff. They're great. Basically, it's a bunch of people who love Star Wars, who have spent ridiculous amounts of time and also money to create these movie-accurate, screen-accurate costumes, essentially cosplaying, but at a very, very high level for all of their favorite characters. And by the finish line, right before you got there, as you round the corner, they just were all set up, and we saw everything from Jawas to clone troopers to TIE pilots and Death Troopers and lots of Jedi and just all kinds of Star Wars characters they had represented there. It was so much fun, and we did stop and take a picture of a few of them and with a few of them as we kind of power walked by, because again, not running since
jumping on the puddles because you don't really have an option.
We were puddle jumping, and then some of those puddles were really deep. I just want to point that out. Like, we thought, oh yeah, we're gonna jump in these puddles, and they wound up being, this deep, and water just completely
goes. It's a lot cuter when you're a kid, apparently.
It's a lot less weight splashing the water. That's what it is. We got a lot more displacement area with our feet. That's what's going on. Like, I remember this not getting so wet when I was a kid, and I just got totally drenched. But we're already soaked through. It doesn't really matter. It was just a lot of fun.
And we were so grateful that they committed to being out there. They're still getting rained on, but they stayed out there so that we would have some pictures with some characters and get to see them as we're crossing the finish line, because this was a different experience. If you remember at the Princess Half Marathon, Disney had so much out there, screens and characters. It's so exciting, but because of the rain, so much of that got taken away. And so for them to be out there meant so much to us. And it was really encouraging as you're about to cross the finish line, because again, this is different. Not as many people cheering you on. No one on the sidelines.
At all. Everyone on the sidelines.
They were smart. They went home.
Yeah.
And so we did cross that finish line. It was so exciting. We have that PhotoPass picture, and we got our medals. And of course, the snack box with the fake cheese.
Gotta love that plastic cheese and the nacho chips.
It's a rite of passage.
You gotta at least eat it once, and then once you do, you can decide to never eat it again if you want. Or all you have to do is be like, hey, anybody want my cheese? And someone will take it, because
every time
there are a lot of people out there that love that stuff.
After eating some of those snacks, because we were starving.
Absolutely starving.
Oh my goodness, it has been such a long morning. We actually went and took pictures with Jabba the Hutt because he had no line now. Look at that.
Imagine that, yeah.
It was great. So we went and took some pictures there. And then, of course, we got some pictures of our medals. And then they did have some signs that we could take a picture with saying, I did it. And we did. We finished this thing. It wasn't like a normal race, but we finished it. And so we had our little paddles that said, I did it. Then we went and waited for a bus to take us back to French Quarter. We are hungry and tired. When we got back to French Quarter, we went to the food court, got some biscuits and gravy. That just sounded really warm and just some good comfort food after this whole morning we've had. We're hungry. So we shared that, and then we went back to our room and we crashed. We did not set an alarm. We have nowhere we have to be today. We're getting some sleep because even though this wasn't a long race, it has been a long morning.
It turned into a very long race. And before we went to bed, I've had a realization that we just ran a 5K in the pouring rain, got completely drenched, and I only own one pair of running shoes. And I'm running a 10K tomorrow and a half marathon the next day. So I'm kind of worried that I'm going to have to do it with squishy shoes, and that doesn't sound like a good idea. So I took my shoes and I set up a suitcase right next to the air conditioning unit, because they do have one of those in-window air conditioning units right down by the floor there at French Quarter. I pushed a suitcase next to it so I could set the shoes on there and get it right in front of the vent. And we turned on the heat because it was a little bit cold, and I turned the fan on to make sure even if the heat went off, the fan kept blowing, and kind of rigged the shoes to be sitting right there so the air was blowing into them, and just sat and prayed that they would dry at some point before 3 o'clock tomorrow morning when I have to go and do the 10K again. So I'm really hoping they actually dry out.
We woke up around 5 o'clock and got ready for the day and just took our time because, again, we don't have anywhere we necessarily have to be. Now, we do need to head over to the Expo again for a couple different reasons. One, we're really hoping that maybe they got more of those 5K pins in. So Robert wanted to check that out. And of course, we didn't spend a lot of time actually looking at the other stuff at the Expo, so we wanted to walk around and see that. They did have some PhotoPass pictures set up, which was really exciting, so we could do a few more pictures there. And then OtterBox had this really random setup with pictures and stuff, so we had a lot of fun putting helmets on and taking pictures there. But the other reason we were at the OtterBox booth was mainly because Robert wanted a new Star Wars case. I was able to get my Aurora one at the Princess Half Marathon weekend. Well, now it's the Star Wars Half Marathon weekend, and he's ready to get his phone case.
And of course, I had to see if they had a Boba Fett case, and they did. So I was very excited to get a new case for my phone. I just had this basic case on there at this point. It was like a wallet thing, and I was very excited to have an OtterBox with Boba Fett. It was going to be great, and it actually was on sale too, so even better, you get a discount.
We walked around, but there really wasn't anything that stuck out to us, but we love seeing all the vendors and everything they have to offer. There's really so much stuff there. We headed towards where we needed to go, though, because I am participating in the cheer squad. So I'm not getting up and doing the races, but I will be cheering on Robert and all the other runners. And so I got my cheer squad package. This was actually really cool. I was really surprised at everything they had in there. They don't make it very clear what's inside, so I wasn't sure what we were getting.
A little ambiguous on the website.
Yeah, I think half the time they don't know what's going to be in there. I'm not sure. I've never done it before, so I don't know if that's normal. But we got this really awesome blanket. One side was warm, and the other side was basically waterproof. So I could sit on the bench with it if I needed to. If it rained, I don't have to worry about it. There was also a cowbell in there, which was probably my favorite thing ever. Do you know how annoying those things are? It was awesome.
I do know how annoying those things are. I know from firsthand experience how annoying the cowbells can be.
Those rooms at Disney, a lot of those resort rooms, especially like at French Quarter, are pretty small when you're practicing to see if you know how to use the cowbell.
Ask me how I know I don't like, experience, lots of experience.
I do also get reserved seating, which will be really convenient for the half marathon because that is a longer race. And so while I'm waiting for him to finish the race, I'll also have reserved seating, which will be really convenient. So I'm very excited about that. After we walked around the expo for a little while, we were really hungry again, so we headed back to French Quarter so we could go to the food court because it's been a really long day. We've burned a lot of calories.
A lot of calories. You say a lot. A lot of calories, because I looked and tracked everything, looked back at the activity record. Yeah, we actually finished a 5K before we hit the start line for the 5K because we had to walk all the way around everything and then into Epcot and then back out of Epcot. So we burned double the amount of calories we planned to burn today, and I feel like that justifies a very large dinner.
Thankfully, French Quarter has a really good food court. I got a pulled pork burger and it was so delicious and exactly what I wanted. Lots of meat, lots of carbs. It was perfect, especially with the chips and the fries it came with.
And I knew what I wanted before I even went down there. They have a couple different plated meal options where you can choose a meat and then 3 vegetables to go with it. They have a ribeye steak there, so that was what I was gunning for. And I got 3 veggies. I got some mashed potatoes, some mac and cheese, and green beans. Lots of food. And normally a meal like this, I would definitely save half of it for leftovers later. But with a day like today and the races we have coming up, yeah, I'm just eating all of it because I am so hungry. Once we finished our meal, we headed back over to our room. Thankfully, it's not very far away. I will say that is something I'm realizing. French Quarter is a pretty darn good resort to be at for a race weekend because you don't have far to walk. We got to our room and I checked on my shoes because I'm really hoping they're going to dry, and the fan's been on the whole time. They're not wet anymore. They're not dripping wet, but they are still kind of damp. So I'm kind of hoping in the next, 6-8 hours they will maybe dry out at least a little bit more, because 10K I could do with kind of damp shoes, but I really need them to be mostly dry. So we went ahead and went to bed because 3 a.m. once again is coming very early, at least for me. Alyssa doesn't have to come until a little later, thankfully, but it was only a 6-mile race, so she can't stay out too long waiting. She does have to come out there at some point, so we're going to go ahead and get some sleep, and that was the end of our day today. So we'll see you tomorrow
For our Year with the Ears.